And we are live. This is show number 103. Welcome to ALTBAYS. If you are watching us live, it's because you are on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, you should subscribe to our channel to support the platform. Now you can also become a member. You can join us. There's a button there where you can throw some dollars to the crew to allow us to keep bringing amazing people to have conversations in the beautiful Coromandel. Thanks for watching. It's been a cool journey. We're bringing a bunch of awesome people and we're having beautiful chats and learning a lot. So thanks for your support. We have our second channel as well, the ALTBAYS clips, where we break down the chat. So if you don't have time to watch the whole thing, you can go ALTBAYS clips and watch some snippets. And if you like it, you can go for the full format. Make sure to also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. TikTok's going off, Jess.
Oh, I love it.
Do you?
I spend hours.
Great.
Absolutely hours on it.
We're gonna get there. So make sure to follow us on TikTok and follow Jess as well. Might as well. If she's there, you know, just follow people.
Prepare to dance.
Do you dance on your TikTok? Is
no.
that
Well, no. I love to watch other people dance though.
You love to watch other people dance,
Yeah.
but you don't dance.
No.
Is it like a thing that you like you building up some trust by watching them and like you maybe
I might get like views for being the worst TikToker though. The worst dancing TikToker. Could be me.
that might go viral. I would watch that.
Would you?
Yeah. I would be supportive.
Cool.
It can be a bit nasty though, eh?
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah. I think people make lots of money though, don't they, off TikTok?
Well, is the one that pays the least for views? Yeah, I think it's what 40.
really?
What's
4 cents for 1,000 views.
4 cents for 1,000 views?
4 scenes for it.
Yeah. So it's not that much, but some people have like 1 million views on each little clip that they put. So you know. Anyway, Jess Hamilton here with us tonight. Yay!
Yay! It's good to be back.
Yeah, look at this support. Speaking of supportive crowd, there you go. We had a cool show. I don't remember the name, but you were a guest a few months ago. We were talking about motorbikes.
Yeah.
Tattoos,
All sorts of cool stuff.
all sorts of cool
It was
stuff.
a cool one. For
Have you
sure.
been riding your bike lately?
I have. I went out last weekend, which was very cool.
Yeah.
When it was, when it was really sunny and nice.
Mm-hmm.
Took the bike out for a ride, which was very cool.
Long ride?
No, it wasn't. We went to, where did we go? We went to Pauanui. Just had a bit of lunch. There's a place there called The Local. If you guys ever go there. Oh, top notch. Had a pizza.
No. Yeah, I haven't.
Great.
Pizza.
Speaking of pizza.
Speaking of pizza, tonight we have beautiful pizza from
Slice, baby.
Baby. So make sure to check them out. Sourdough pizza bases, which is amazing, light and beautiful. They always put some veggie and vegan options for us, but obviously they cater for everyone. So make sure to go Slice Baby NZ on the socials. We're gonna have their logo and their information on the screen tonight. So make sure to support our bros. Yes. And how is are you jumping into the real estate thing as well?
I'm not so much.
Okay.
We're trying to buy.
You're trying
if
to-
that counts.
I think so.
But we're trying to save, which is also really, really hard. So
What a
you know.
life, eh?
Oh,
Miserable system, isn't it? Consuming us from like the ground, you know, to the top of our heads.
Yep, it's very hard. I suppose you get wrapped up in I need to buy a house and I need, the whole dynamic of it.
Yes. I can see
One
that these
day.
guys want to talk about that, so I'm going to bring them to this conversation. With us tonight, we have the pleasure to talk to Martinus Sarangapany.
Yeah.
Good pronunciation?
Yeah. Spot on.
Thank you, my man.
Lovely.
And Bex. Hi, Bex.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Nice to see you both.
It's nice to see you guys. Fresh from Europe?
Yeah.
Still slightly jet lagged, but getting there.
Yeah. Which countries did you guys go to?
We were pretty basic. I've got family in England, so we started there and we went up around Scotland through Wales and then did a whole lot of English pubs pretty much.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, we didn't actually leave the UK. We just thought, let's just stay here, do it right, do it well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool.
I was thinking, I was like, man, are they there like to visit all the art galleries? No, it's for the pubs.
Yeah, good English architecture.
Yeah, there's There's a bit of art in the
about.
pubs. It was
Oh, that's what I was thinking. There's always art at the pubs.
got more interesting after a few ales, so it was good.
Were you born in
Yeah.
Europe, in the UK?
Yeah, I was born in England and I was there until I was 6. So I did my first 2 years of school there and then we came over. And I've got a younger brother. I've got a bit of an accent sometimes. No one else in my family does anymore. Oh, Dad maybe. Yeah.
And it was the first time that you went to the UK? Martin?
Yeah, I'd never been there before. Been to Holland and Germany
Yeah.
because I'm half Dutch, but that's about as far over that way as I'd been.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
first time.
But you were born...
I was
Were you
born in New
Zealand?
Zealand. Yeah, born in Kowhai, up north.
Nice. So both artists.
Yeah.
You do other things, or you guys focus? You're full-time artists. What's the vibe?
No, I'm a carpenter.
And I'm a physio, so very much not full-time artist. It's still very hobby-based for both of us, but we love it a lot and it's really important for us to be artistic, so we try and kind of fit it in where we can at the moment.
Is the goal one day to be full-time
I
artist?
think for me, I'd love that.
Yeah.
I'd really love that to be an option. How I get there is always a little bit more difficult, especially talking about houses and trying to get into markets here and stuff. Having to get some cash, basically, to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The art, you've got to focus so hard on it to get to that stage, I think. So at the moment, it's kind of cool as a side. But yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always sort of tossed up the idea of being an artist to make work to sell, or being an artist just because you enjoy making work.
Yeah.
And I think I sort of go more that side, although I probably complain when I am making art that I'm not selling enough art. But I actually enjoy just making art because I have something to say, and then I make it, and if it sells, it sells, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and it's just what it is, and yeah.
I've got a couple of friends who they do art and they're really worried about taking the step from it being a hobby to it being a job, you know, so then you sort of feel like, oh, I have to do this because I need to make money, instead of just doing it because you want to, you know, express yourself. Or
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Like, am I going to ruin making art for myself if I'm actually stressing about, I need to supply this gallery this week, or this person wants this specific thing, but I want to make that. Or so it's a difficult one.
What are the formats that you guys usually focus on? You draw, Bex?
I draw, I draw and paint, and then Marky has got me into woodcut as well, because that's been your forte recently.
Yeah, I do a bit of wood cutting, so carving bits of MDF or lino and then rolling ink on it and squishing it through a press, or rubbing the back of a spoon on the paper and making prints.
that's cool.
So there's a
making-
carving process first, right?
Yeah,
First you carve what you want, and then the printing goes. Is that the process?
Yeah,
is that right
yeah.
to
So
say?
you have like a piece of MDF or lino, and you use chisels and you're carving out your picture.
That's so cool.
So it's actually,
And
now that you explaining that, it's actually the opposite. You're not
Reverse.
painting. You it's the reverse.
Yeah,
right?
so
You-
whatever you want white, that's what you carve. So normally when you're drawing with your pencil, you're drawing your dark, you know, you're making the paper darker, whereas I guess with woodcut you're making everything light again.
It's confusing.
And
like,
it's
for
in
me
reverse.
Starting, I was like, I want this, and I draw it out, and then I had to think about how to get that on paper or onto the wood block afterwards. And Marky does a lot of type, and you actually have to carve it backwards first. So it's confusing for me. He's really good at it.
It's an interesting concept because Miles Davis said once, the musician, he was like, I don't remember exactly the quote, but it was something like, the beauty of music, it's actually in the silence, in the spaces that you don't play. It's when you don't play, you know, that makes that. So I guess there's a little bit of that, you know, like you're thinking about the spaces and like how you're gonna compose that.
Oh, totally. Like one of my tutors said, you know, like it's not necessarily what you're drawing. It's exactly that. It's all the spaces, and you're looking at, you know, your blacks and your whites and your greys, and just trying to make this nice connection between them all. So it's not necessarily about this picture. You're sort of looking at,
Were you guys into the arts from an early age? Was it something that was always with you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm always into doodling, drawing,
Yeah.
doing something, you know.
School books were a mess.
Yeah.
Did you guys meet because of art, or was it just
No, not
Nah.
at all. Not at all.
you just meet and then you both just loved art?
Yeah, we
it's
were both
cool.
just into it.
I
Yeah.
don't think I even knew you were into art when I met you.
Nah.
You're
Nah. I was
kayak
living in
guiding.
I was a kite guide.
Yeah.
So I did that before I was a builder.
Yeah.
And that was quite a good job because I'd work all summer and then just have winter off. So winter was a time to make art, you know,
Yeah.
or just hang out or just do whatever. So I had a lot more free time.
Mm.
So I was probably a lot more productive in those years. And now I'm a builder. I'm kind of just,
Working all the time.
it's too much building to do. So,
So much building.
yeah.
Do you stretch, bro? Do you stretch?
Stretch.
Yeah. Because builders, you know, I guess
Physical.
physically, yeah.
I
you,
try to get him to, Leo.
Oh, so you were just playing dumb with me.
Yeah,
Like,
nah,
what are you talking about, man?
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
I'll get you down.
Yoga.
No, I should. And everybody I talk to is like, oh, I'm so glad I do this. I should have done this years ago. And I'm like, yeah, I should start because I'm probably going to be you soon saying the exact same thing. So, yeah, I should.
Because they've got, it's called Broga. isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
But we live over the dark side and it's
there's
such a
Broga
mission
on
to
our
get
side
over
too.
here. Is there? I
No
don't know. What
excuse.
time is it?
I can set you
Do
a
they do an
program,
after hours session? I'd be keen. Yeah.
If you start doing it, it's going to be for men anyway, right? It's
Yeah.
just up to you.
I'm making excuses.
But you guys are pretty active, eh? Like I see you guys like traveling and being out in nature. Big part of your life, eh?
Yeah,
For sure.
it is. It's huge. I mean, Marky did a load of outdoor education as part of his training, and I've just always been outside and active. Loads of sports, loads of tramping,
Surfing.
kayaking. So that's pretty huge bit of our life.
And obviously influences what we
do.
do. For,
Yeah.
And then when I see your paintings, Bex, so much nature there, birds. So is it something that really?
Yeah, it is, and it seems at times quite cliche, but it is so important to me. Nature and conservation is that's one of the very top things that is part of my life, and part of that is drawing these things and gaining awareness of what birds are doing, what habitat they're in, and that kind of fosters a bit of an understanding of, okay, well, I need to keep that. Like, I like looking at this, so what do I do to keep this bird safe? And
cool.
so that's a pretty huge thing for me. There's a big nature influence to what I do. And
Do you take photos as well? Because I saw there were some photos on your...
Yeah, I do. I like to. I've got a crap camera, but it's I've sort of learned how to use it, and I love taking photos, and I try. It does help with my drawing as well, because if I can get a good composition and a photograph, then I can use that for drawing, because it takes too long to just draw from life sometimes.
Well, we were talking about that, weren't we? We were saying, like, it's incredible that, like, when you look at something and you draw it versus when you see it in your mind and try and draw the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so not easier, but to see something and draw it is a little bit...
Yeah, and it's
easier.
nice to have a composition of both those things. So I'd hate to draw directly from a photograph, because you would just get what's there, and you can take that from a photo. But if you can, for me, if I can combine what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing in my head with actually what's happening realistically through a photograph, then I get quite a cool result.
How is New Zealand with the conservation projects and?
I mean, I'm super involved in it around our area. I do a lot of the local trapping in Hahei, and we've got a few little planting projects on the go as well. So it's huge for me to be able to go out and do that, and I walk the dog and we go up all these cool places in the bush and see the kaka and see the Well, I did a Kiwi call not so long ago, so we're listening to lots of Kiwi, and so it's all here for us to see, but it's also a bit frustrating sometimes seeing our input as humans and how we do affect that, but you can also see how we can improve that. So we've got quite a cool little team in Hahei, and I know there's a lot around the whole peninsula doing heaps of conservation work, so it's kicking off quite well at the moment.
What is harder to control, the pests or the plants that are not native and they start to take over? And
for me, I watch the plants, but both are as bad as each other. Like once you start looking, it's almost overwhelming. It just gets pretty full on. Like everywhere you look, there's a pest species of plant, or there's a rat or a stoat, or it's a lot of work.
It's almost like you can't relax now. Like when she came back from her course that she did about the pests before you went to Little Barrier.
Oh, yeah.
And then every time we'd go for a walk, she'd just be like, oh, look at that pest. Oh, look at that plant. Oh, look at that plant. And it was just like, man, can't we just enjoy this walk?
Yeah,
like, look at everywhere else. But it was just like, no, I've got to like,
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
It's I think I'm still hopeful that we can make a bit of a dent in it, but some places, like I'm getting better at just accepting that that's okay. Like that's.
I guess the Little Barrier gave you hope. Maybe looking at a place like that is now predator free.
Yeah, that's
incredible.
Just thriving.
Yeah.
Like it's an amazing. I've never been there, but just seeing what Bex has seen through photos. Looks amazing. So
But there's no predators at all.
Nah, and no pest plant species either.
Wow.
So
on the whole island, that's incredible.
No pest plant species. They manage all the really gnarly pest plant species, so there's nothing that's actually invasive into the bush.
Oh.
There's a little bit on the coastline where birds sort of drop seed and but it's just amazing, the bird song and the plant life, and it's just so cool because you think, oh, that's what it would have been like.
Wow.
I don't know if it's too crazy to say something like this, but like when people talk about pest control, what comes to my mind first thing is like, you're gonna have to get rid of the pets.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's
crazy.
And we have a
cat.
dog, and dogs are one of the biggest killers of kiwis. It's like,
I think the big thing at the moment is, like, in a community like Hahei, people have been quite worried about us trapping because of cats, because of perceived risks that cats can get into the traps, and it could be trapping domestic cats, which is a really hard kind of path to tread, because obviously I don't want to go and catch anyone's pet. Like, that's not something I'm currently comfortable with. Like, I've really struggled to catch a cat, but it's quite safe what we're doing because of all the protocol around the traps. We've got to use quite specific things, but you're totally right. Like, it's a huge part of it. With dogs, if they're well controlled, if you can control the human to control the dog, then it's probably okay in most circumstances. If they're on leash, etc. Cats are really difficult because you just can't control a cat, unfortunately.
Yeah, you ask anybody where their cat is right now.
No idea.
Cats just do what they want.
As much as I love them, it's a really hard path to tread. But I think things that we're targeting, stoats and ferrets especially, target kiwi, and kiwi is generally the conservation focus at the moment. There's heaps of other stuff that benefits from less pests, but if a ferret gets hold of a kiwi, then it will go and get every other kiwi. So that's kind of a focus at the moment for us.
They do dog avoidance training for dogs, right? That's quite a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's definitely beneficial to do that. It's not fail safe. Like, a dog can still be trained and still get a kiwi, but it certainly seems to. We've done it with our dog.
Worth a shot, eh?
It seems to work pretty well. Yeah.
Who looked after the dog when you guys were away?
Luckily we have Gail.
Oh, lovely flatmate.
Lovely
Gail.
flatmate at home.
Shout out, Gail.
Shout out
Hey,
to
Gail.
Gail. Thank you, Gail.
Great.
Yeah.
She's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's basically the godmother of our dog now.
He loves her so much more.
Yeah.
How old's your dog?
Oh, he's 9 now. He's
Wow.
getting there. Yeah.
He's getting old and fat.
Jake.
Is what about the development in the areas in the country? Is it something that kind of gets in the conversation as well when we're talking about conservation, about like areas that are to be developed or
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's pretty well controlled around here generally, I think, as in bush areas. I think it would be amazing for people to have more knowledge about what they're planting and what would be good for their own little patch of land, what they can do to manage their own conservation of their land. And I think if everyone did that, we'd be in an amazing space. Because it's so much easier if we all put out one trap and we all manage our own invasive weeds on our property and we all plant beneficial plants for birds and insects. And if we could all do that, we wouldn't have the kind of problems that we have. But I think we've all got too busy and we just don't find time to do that, which is difficult. I mean, we fall into that trap sometimes too. But I think development for us, it's in Hahei, it's farmland development. So it's sort of one type of managed land changing to a different type of managed land, and what one's better, I don't know. But there's just more people. There's more people moving in, and we are the worst problem, unfortunately.
Man, I saw in one of your pages that there was an article about you that you said that you had a nomadic life.
Yeah.
Is a nomadic life, does it get busy as well? I sort of wrote that just because I moved around a lot as a kid. So, and even still now, we're always going somewhere, always travelling somewhere. So, yeah, it was quite busy. I mean, being a kayak guide, I was a seasonal job. So I was always working here for summer, leaving, going somewhere else, whether it was going home or going overseas or going to work the ski fields or whatever was lined up for the time. So, yeah, I've always sort of been a bit of a nomad. Sounds cool too. It sounds cool, man. Yeah. Especially for an artist, and that was the thing that we were talking about before. Like going on a trip to feel inspired. Like such a beautiful thing. Like because usually people are escaping a crazy life that they have, but when you actually can take action to go and get the best out of the situation, or you just go to the pubs, right? So
look at the art on the walls.
We weren't
do other things, I promise.
We weren't just at the pubs. I mean, the nature of England is just amazing. The landscape, the history, the architecture, and I guess we live in New Zealand. How lucky are we? But our history is just not the same. You don't have buildings that have been there for
hundreds and hundreds.
I mean, we were at a pub where the Knight Templars used to go and get a beer before they went on the Crusades. I mean, that's just crazy.
It's the stuff we used to read as children, I think, and then for you seeing that and going, oh wow, I read a book about this when I was 10. Like that's kind of cool.
Seeing things like you can look at photos of the cathedrals and you're like,
nothing compares to
that's
real
cool
life.
That's a beautiful thing in a photo.
Like
you can still appreciate it, but you go there and you're just gobsmacked. Like you're standing there going, wow, these artists that made these things and how did they make these things? They're huge.
I think the difference here is that our history in New Zealand's not a written history and not something that you necessarily see so much of, like physical buildings and things like that.
So you don't have that constant reminder of the history. I guess, we still have a beautiful history here in New Zealand and it's, it's enriched with all these beautiful stories and mythologies and things like that. But yeah, like you said, you're not constantly reminded about it. Everywhere you look in England, you're reminded of this history that they have. So
because I can't even really think about any sort of structure in New Zealand that is, Christ the Redeemer or anything like that. There's nothing that really I can think of in New Zealand that's as significant or as
I guess we were
big
using natural resource, which was wood, and wood rots, unfortunately. But I think it's quite difficult for me being English sometimes, and we had this with the Queen's death.
I was
whilst
about
we
to
were
ask
over
that.
there.
You guys were there, right?
Yeah, it's quite difficult sort of being in some ways proud of your culture and proud of, because it was pretty beautiful to see what the English can do with all their protocol, and it's ridiculous, I know, but it's also really beautiful. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's kind of my culture and my background, because I've always kind of struggled, what is my culture, like living here. There's always such a, you need to sort of be close to your roots, and I was like, oh well, it's England, like what's in England? But it's been really cool going back as an adult and going, oh well, that is really interesting, and this history is part of it, and although the history is not always stuff that I'm proud of, it's still really interesting and really cool to look on. So it's always been a bit of a sort of funny thing. We talked about it whilst we were away, like, oh, I think it's something to be proud of, but just know the things where, all right, that was not so great. I mean, they shouldn't have gone to that country and taken, like we went to the British Museum and we're like, why is all the Egyptian pharaohs sarcophagus in here, but it was so, like, it was Britain and the ages just taking over the world, but it's also like there are things to be proud of, which I think I need to be like, oh, my culture is okay, like although we've done all this stuff, it's pretty cool as well. I watched the documentary not that long ago. I think was from a guy from, I don't remember if it was Nigeria, that they were like doing this big petition to get a lot of art back to Africa. That quite big diamond, eh? They're trying to get that back as well. There were a few from things, the collection, I suppose. It's madness. It's like the biggest diamond in the world. Yeah. And they want to take it back now. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Well, it came from a place, right?
Well, I suppose it was
and that's a conversation that like we have with a lot of people here, you know, because as you said, you have an image when you're a child, you know, it's something that is introduced to you, like you have no power over the history that you learn. You just learn that. On the other hand, we get presented completely the opposite, you know, like, oh, the invaders, the people who took things, and then like when something big like this that just happened, you know, like come to the forefront, you're going to get all sorts of emotions from all sorts of people. And then, like, I think the best thing you can do is just, like, listen. Because and accept, the people who are alive right now, it's not their fault what happened. But, like, if you're capable to acknowledge things, right? It's a humane thing to do. It's a human thing to have a chat. Did you guys get to see any controversy or, like, people?
Oh, totally. Like, that was probably a big thing we noticed. Not so much over there, but we could see a lot of feedback coming from here. And, you know, some of it, like you say, fair play, but some of it kind of seemed like, you know, I guess us being there, we sort of got sucked into the whole English side of things, maybe, I don't know. And man, hats off to the Queen. Geez, 70 years of holding down a job that you never wanted in the first place. You just got forced into. And she did a hell of a job, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, hats off for sure. You can respect her for that. But, like, I think what was actually kind of upsetting even for me was just seeing all the backlash coming from here. It was like people weren't even letting these other people mourn that loss. They were just ready to just throw in the daggers, you know.
I suppose it's hard from New Zealand because you don't see really like
that far removed
what the Queen's sort of job is. Like you don't see it from over here.
I still wonder what her job is really. Like, I mean, the monarchy's kind of, they don't really have a hell of a lot of control, do they?
But I think the main thing, like my 90-year-old gran, who's obsessed with the Queen and who was really like distraught when she died. I think for her and a lot of people it was very much like this has been a steady presence through our life for this long, through war, through whatever else, and now is gone, and oh my gosh, what are we now? I think it just brings mortality into light for people a little bit. But I think as well it means a lot to people, and like we saw, Scotland will be pleased that the Queen's died coming from this side, but actually the message we were getting whilst we were in Scotland was very much, it's really sad that the Queen's died, and obviously not for everyone. So it's interesting what news sort of passages can do and say, and it's not necessarily what's happening everywhere.
How long were you guys there for?
6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
Was it time enough to pick up the vibe and the lifestyle, man, for you going for the first time to those countries?
Yeah, I think so. You never have enough time ever, you know. You can always have more holiday time.
No,
for sure.
and I wouldn't like to kind of pretend that we know exactly what people are feeling or what's going on over there, but it was a good amount of time. We were pretty rugged in the way we travelled Scotland as well, which was nice. We tend to be pretty frugal with money to a fault. It's,
to the artist, just trying to get stuff for free.
To the extent that we stink. And
it wasn't that bad. I swam every day. Speak for yourself.
Yeah, the water was cold.
Yeah. No, we lived out of a tent, so.
Yeah, it was quite a nice way to travel and see.
I suppose you see a lot more though, eh? Staying in a tent and doing it like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was feeling of the war because they have the gas there, the power is getting expensive.
Yeah.
People just talking about that.
Yeah.
Before the Queen passed, that's all you ever heard of was the power crisis, and it's a real thing. Like, you know, people are terrified that they don't even know if they can afford food now, you know. And I felt quite guilty because here I am on this holiday just living it up, having a beer when I want and eating whatever I want, you know. How lucky are we, you know? And here's these people wondering they got to decide whether they're going to pay for warmth, you know, to keep warm through winter, or whether they're going to get food for the week. So it was a big thing, and it still is a big thing. I mean, the Queen took the pressure off that for a little while, but obviously that's going to come and go, and people are still going to be hungry and cold. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen in England over the winter for them.
The war's so much more real over there as well.
Yeah,
so much closer to home. For like walking around London, my cousin's in London, and then Putin was making an announcement on sort of next steps and stuff. And for us over here, we're like, oh yeah, that will be kind of scary. But for them, it's like, oh, London would be one of the first spots to be kind of affected by this, surely. So it hits a bit closer for them, for sure.
Yeah, last week I saw something about a lot of Russians escaping Russia, because now it's getting to that point of recruiting people who had very little training, but it's getting to those critical
and they don't want to
moments.
I read somewhere he said he's getting 300,000 more soldiers drafting, but then they were saying, well, in reality, he hopes to have 1 million. That's what he's trying to go for.
Civilians who are not wanting to be part of it themselves.
Not soldiers, you know, bakers, builders, teachers, farmers, just everyday people.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Did your family have an opinion for the Brexit when it happened?
Yeah, they were pretty anti it. They didn't want it to happen at all. They thought it was ridiculous that Britain would choose to do that and choose to separate themselves from such a... I think especially like my aunt and uncle were pretty anti it because they saw their sons wanting to be able to experience Europe and experience people from Europe coming and going over there and being able to work over there and gain just life experience generally. And obviously they can't do that as easily anymore. But it just affects so many things. Like there's so many things now that have backfired on them, produce and other European nations working really closely together with each other now, whereas Britain gets left out of that because they chose to leave. I mean, it's fair enough.
Reap what you sow, eh?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a crazy
like
decision.
In saying that, though, we noticed that their produce is super cheap.
Yeah,
like,
really?
You can get a cauliflower for 50p, so that's $1.
Wow,
and
unheard of.
Yeah, you know, here it's we saw in the supermarkets like $4 for a bloody cauliflower.
Yeah. I saw something like that, $7.
It's like $4.
$4
for a capsicum. For one capsicum.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, somebody's winning. It's not us.
Not us.
Their petrol was more expensive though. So
more expensive than here.
Oh
my goodness.
And that's an interesting thing that you said about the traditions, like the English traditions, you know, like, because it's beautiful to see. But like one of the criticism that I saw that for me was like, that makes sense, you know, like 2022, people are struggling to get like food and accessible stuff, like basic stuff, and we have all
this
these
extravagance.
So I think like if you are in that position, that's one of the frustrating things, or you see like so much.
It's unbelievable that people would have to make a choice between this and this. Like, am I going to eat? Am I going to put gas in my car? Am I going to pay for my power? Am I, you know, it's unbelievable.
I struggle to like believe it, but you know, that's what they're saying. So you got to sort of just take their word for it.
There was a lot of, they're really reliant on oil still, like all the heating is oil heating as well, but there's a heck of a lot of solar fields, there's a lot of wind energy, there's a lot more happening environmentally than even there is here, it seems, but they've got so many people. It's just so hard to keep up with. That's right. But also, I mean, just talking for my relatives who possibly could do a bit more for being environmental, they can't live without the dryer, like which I guess they're living in the UK. It's pretty weird. But there's stuff like that maybe we've never used a dishwasher. We've never used, although dishwasher's not too bad, a dryer, like extra stuff that now has become essential, which is probably not essential for most people. But that might just be my family.
I saw this guy talking that there's a, you know, Vice, there's a good one called The Third Industrial Revolution, and the guy says that a lot of the countries that the economy is starting to grow now, they might be ahead in like 20, 30 years of what we call the leading countries, like with economy at the moment, because countries like, as you just said, like if you rely on an old form of fuel, you know, like you're gonna have to replace that, and sometimes replacing costs more than actually coming up with something new. So countries that don't have a solid infrastructure now with wind,
they got this chance to build that for the first time. They're not replacing stuff. They're already, it's there and they're fresh and they're good to go.
It was so frustrating when we were over there because they had a change of prime minister when we were over there as well.
That's right.
So Liz Truss now. Boris is gone, and they, because they've got this cost of living crisis, her response to that was to lift the ban on fracking. So now you can frack for oil.
What is that?
What is frack?
Fracking is basically sourcing oil, but it's really it's undersea oil, but it's really bad for the environment, basically. And it was banned several years ago by the government at the time, which I assume was Boris. I don't know, I don't keep up, but it's really poor for the environment. But they've just lifted that ban because there's this cost of living crisis and they need to sort the crisis out, but at the expense of the environment.
So it's like one thing for another, isn't it?
It's so
like
annoying.
There's no sort of middle ground. It's just one or the other. You know?
Eating its own tail, because
exactly.
For the
and
people,
I mean,
right?
it's just a quick fix, but down the track it's going to be more issues that you possibly can't even fix. So
doesn't fix the problem, does it?
No. Exactly.
Do you guys feel like being in such a prolific and artistic country with a bunch of people, is it easier to stand out as an artist than being in, because you had exhibitions in other countries, right, Martin? You've done some.
Yeah, so just part of group shows and stuff like that. I don't know. It's easy to stand out.
I don't know. I think it's really hard these days to stand out as an artist at all. There's a lot more artists, and I think you've really got to show yourself and put yourself separate to everyone else. And I think it takes an awful lot of effort. There's a lot of really good artists out there who no one ever sees their stuff at all.
I think, and that's it. You just got to push yourself, and you got to do the mahi to get the treats. So, you know, just get on social media and you know, frame your work and get it to the shows. Whereas I don't know, Bex is a lot better at doing that sort of things.
Social media.
Yeah, but you're good at framing and getting it out there. Whereas I'm like, make the work and then put in the cupboard.
And then complain no one saw it.
Yeah. So
Leo was saying that do you make your frames? Or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite cool. That's quite a cool thing.
It's quite cool. It's cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was what started it. I was like, I can't afford to frame my stuff, so I'm gonna make these, and they were pretty crap to start with. Like some pretty poor frames, but I've improved, I think.
Cool. So cool.
What's the process? What do you use?
I've got a miter saw and a table saw, and Marky gets a lot of offcut wood from his building projects. It's always kind of a shame to see them go to waste because there's all these lengths of wood that just go in landfill. So I try and use those, or I'll try and source old totara fence posts or something that's kind of interesting.
it's old decking, Quila decking
Yeah.
or Vitex or whatever.
And then just cut it all down and trim it up so it's a bit more neat and tidy, and then put it all together. I've got a good clamp system.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because we went to Placemakers to build this new
Yeah,
wall there.
nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Artistic. There was a Japanese friend who actually does some techniques for like shrines and
sure.
yeah.
Oh, right.
So he gave it a go. Like we just did some research and we're like, we want something like this, and he was like, yeah. Did it in like one day, which was pretty
Sweet.
cool.
Yeah.
But yes, we couldn't pay for two.
This looks like it wouldn't be cheap either. This.
So that's where I was going. So like we go to Placemakers and they quote, like they give you the price per meter, but they don't sell the meter. You gotta buy it. That's smart. That's smart. Eh? So
That's the
Martin,
technique, though. That's how you get them.
I know, right? So Martin, is it actually a common thing, like for the construction what's the name, like companies and stuff, like the practice of selling? Because I see that so often, like the bins are full. Like I don't know, is it just a very common thing that there's a lot of leftovers, and like what happens to those?
It's crazy the amount that goes into landfills, and I mean really it's actually quite disheartening, like I'm working, we're building these nice holiday homes for people, but they're not really, they're not thinking about, and they're not thinking about what the wastage, the amount of skip bins that go off one house. And it's disgusting, really. I mean, really, maybe our government should be getting involved on that side of things and going, okay, look, this is how we can build a house with less waste. If you want to build outside of that, hey, that's okay. Maybe you've got to start paying more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That money has to now go into environmental things for our country to help better it, because you're getting your fancy house that you want, but
at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. And they don't care. They've just got money coming out of their wazoo.
Absolutely.
Or maybe they just don't know. Maybe that's not something that their attention's been brought to in the past.
Nah, probably not. Yeah.
Maybe when they see it in the
right.
bill, they go, wow, 3 skips.
Yeah.
Maybe that needs to be added on the end, and you've utilised this much waste, which...
I really think the skips are the last thing they're concerned about,
Absolutely.
to be honest. Like, I had a mate, another builder mate who I was talking with the other day, and he said, his owner just had a big decision about hinges and then decided to go for the 30 grand worth of hinges for his house. I mean, what? 30 grand for hinges? Come on.
It's unbelievable.
It's quite difficult at the moment because, we've been looking at property, as heaps of us have been, and even new building estates, we want to build a really small house. We want to build something tiny, cheaper, affordable, obviously. And if we buy in a new subdivision, we've got to build something over 120 square metres.
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
And I
whatever the rules are for that subdivision, but generally
it's so poor environmentally.
Ridiculous.
So
Is it a
frustrating.
condition?
Yeah.
In many new subdivisions, it needs to be over a certain size. You can't build under.
Well, it's designed to protect the subdivision, so
The way it
everybody
looks.
has a nice big house, and that's
Sometimes
keeps
you can't
the value
paint
up.
things a certain colour, and your roof's got to be
Which
this
I'm
and
okay
that
with.
and
Colour
da, da,
scheme,
da.
all right, cool, no worries. But I just want to build build a 60 square metre house.
Well, meanwhile, we have a housing crisis, and we need as many houses as we can to house people. And well, we can't even.
But what would be the reason for that? It's just like to keep a standard so it doesn't drop in value, so it doesn't look bad.
Correct.
Yeah.
But looking bad is so relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like my partner's dad just did a subdivision on his land, and there's all sorts of rules. Like your house has to be this big, and you can't. It has to be a new build. Like you can't bring a house like a relocatable and put it there. Like it's all
so
sorts
it just
of
sort of pushes younger people out of the market in a big way. Yeah. It's hard.
How are you guys doing with the mission of getting piece of land?
We're trying. We were trying to buy that the land I'm talking about. We were trying to buy the last lot, but we just missed out. Unfortunately, we were gonna get a kit set shed, and it's sort of like a 2-bay shed with like a sort of house on the side, and we were gonna try and do that, but we just missed out, unfortunately. But that's where somebody came in with money and said, "Here."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Well, fair enough."
That's it.
You know? Yeah.
Has it been like this for years? Because you guys are from here and you've been here for 4 years. Like, is it something that it's always been in the news? It's been a thing, like housing crisis, the prices of.
No.
I mean, I only moved here in 2000.
But in New Zealand, generally.
When did I come? 2007.
Yeah.
7.
To the Coromandel.
Yeah.
Coromandel.
And things were. I mean, back then you could still buy a house for 200,000, maybe 300.
Imagine.
300 was like in Hahei, 350,000. And we were like, whoa, that's pretty expensive.
That's a lot.
Now that's like chump change. And
that's a deposit.
That's a dream. yeah, exactly. So I mean, and obviously, as everybody knows, in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, everything just went crazy.
I think it is on the way down, though. It is sort of leveling out and sort of heading down. Yeah.
I just don't know if it will ever drop too much here.
Not to be affordable, I wouldn't think.
It's a holiday destination for the younger. It's expanding. It's getting better. The infrastructure is growing. So, I don't know.
I mean, there's certainly a few more houses going in. So, I mean, that might actually reduce the demand somewhat.
Maybe. They're opening up a new area too, I think, down by the industrial part of Moai.
Oh, yeah.
Like OPC on this side.
Yeah.
I think they're opening up a new area down there in the next few years. So there'll be more houses going in down there.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Are you guys, were you guys the ones who started the yellow house? Is that the one?
Yellow door.
Yellow door?
Yeah.
So what is that project about?
We have a rental house in Hahei, and we have got nowhere to do our art. That's how it started. Like, where can we do it? So there's like a little old. It used to be a scout den, and it's in the Hahei Reserve near the tennis courts. And we asked.
Well, we just
the
put
library committee. I think we asked, who's using that, and then. They said no one, and it hasn't been used for 15 years, and it used to be a sort of library computer room, but now they don't have the desktop computers, so they said, do you want to use it? So we basically took it over, did it up, and we just pay the power for it. Wow. So it's pretty awesome. And we've been able to convert it so it's a bit fresher. Marky's put some sort of French doors in recently in a little area at the front, so we can use it a bit more properly. Build a print press to go in there out of an old mangle clothes ringer thing, and put some tables, and we've just got like a little community art space in there, which anyone is free to use. And
we just invite people to come and be part of it. But normally we sort of started off Tuesday nights, and we were trying to get there every Tuesday night and just open up, and if people want to get down there and be part of it and do their own thing, whatever, they're more than welcome. I'm normally in there doing a bit of printing, or Bex is in there doing some printing or drawing or whatever. And then the idea would be that, as it grows and develops, then we can talk, we can move from there. But we sort of, at the same time as doing the yellow door, when we first got used to the building, we ended up starting to well, we actually brought a bit of land and then started doing a house on it. So then we were like sort of too much on the go. And the yellow door got a bit neglected, but we're kind of just getting back into it now. So hopefully this summer. And
we've had a few community, we had an exhibition in there. It was the start of last year. I can't remember when it was, but we did sort of a group exhibition for up and coming artists where basically no one with a name really. we had a sort of system where you had a piece of art and it was worth $50. So you'd make something that you thought was worth that. And you put it in the exhibition and people would buy tickets worth $50 and they get to come in as their name was drawn out of a hat and pick the piece of art that they wanted off the wall, which was really cool for getting different people's art out there. And it was also not so scary. Like people weren't coming around being like, it wasn't obvious whose was being bought at what time, which can be a little bit scary as a new artist, that your piece is going to be the last piece on the wall. So each artist had several pieces that they could put in. So, and we had a number of tickets that meant that at least one of their pieces would be taken as a sort of prize. And we had some live music, and then we had another outdoor movie night too. Yeah, one of our mates has got a big projector screen, so we'll just try and get a good film on. And we actually had Te Mauri o Kauri. Te Mauri o Kauri by James Muir. He's a filmmaker, and he let us use his film, so thanks James. And that was really cool. It was beautiful, just beautiful bit of cinematography, and he let us use that, so it's cool to share that with the rest of the community. Yeah, we've got, I actually, before I went away overseas, we tried to get a bit of another film night going, and I didn't get around to doing it, so I'm hoping to do it before summer. So we're going to use the big screen again and do a little bit of a mobile cinema where we put the screen up at different locations around, just local to us at the moment, and do some conservation and surf film nights, which I will advertise when I sort it out.
Let us know so we can help out with the promotion for sure. Guys, how hard it is to price your artwork?
Oh, so hard.
Well, yeah, like what Beck said with that $50 art thing, like
that's what I was thinking.
Like big hats off to all the artists, because they were definitely bringing in pieces of work that you're like, that's worth way more than $50. And yeah, I mean, actually, it's even harder to say bring in something worth $50 because
how do you put a price on it?
Exactly. We're both pretty bad at it.
We both undersell massively,
which is stupid because you're not only underselling yourself, you're also undervaluing everyone around you, all the other artists around you. So really, you need to sell for what you're worth, because
I suppose they say, like with buying houses, things are only worth how much people want to pay for them. People will say, I think it's worth da-da-da, and you'll go, what?
Yeah.
And then, it could be more or less than what you think, but
there's so much weird psychology behind like how you price your art as well. Like they sort of suggest that sometimes if you price it higher, people put more value on that piece of art, and they say, well, it must be worth more because it's more expensive. And I bought this piece because it's more expensive than that piece. But I don't know. It's difficult being in a position where I don't readily go out and buy art because I'm not in the sort of financial position to do that at the moment, although we've just been able to kind of start prioritizing that a little bit more, because you just don't know what you're worth, and you feel a little bit like an imposter. You get a lot of imposter syndrome, like, I'm really not worth that. It would be amazing to have someone that just marketed you, but you're just like a one man or woman business as an artist, and it's quite difficult. Also, you'd rather it goes. So you'd be like, okay, well, if I sell it real cheap, someone will get it, surely. And then cool, I got that money. Whereas if I put this big price on it, it might go, and then I might make lots, but it probably won't. And then I'm still stuck with nothing,
Do you guys think it's a bit of like a systematic issue? Because like when you study and you become like a trader or someone who is producing, you wouldn't tell the plumber to sign the pipes. Oh, good on you, man. Just sign the pipes and it's all good. People will recognize you.
Tell me
know?
a story about this pipe.
Yeah, like, but because the arts, they have this thing of like, oh, it's good for you, and then it kind of like undervalues. Yeah. And a lot of countries are going through the issue of like, oh, are we even going to keep the arts as curriculum? Mm-hmm. Do you think it's also because of that thing that we get from a very early age that it's hard for us sometimes to recognize that it's a real job, it's a real thing, there's a lot of hours, there's a lot of sweat, as you guys know, a lot of tears, a lot of blood going.
I certainly grew up in a household where it was like, well, no, you can't be an artist because that's not going to ever earn you, and it was all from care and love. It was like, well, you need to do something that's going to actually earn you something so that you can live well.
Well, I was probably lucky. My folks were just like, go do whatever.
Do what you want.
You want to do that? Go do that.
Cool. Are they artists? Are they into?
Nah, my aunt, I grew up with my auntie, and she milks cows.
Nice.
Yeah, but she was just like, just do what makes you happy.
I had a friend of my mum's who her dad, he did lots of art when he was young. Yeah. And he put a few pieces into sort of shows and exhibitions here and there. And then a few years ago, he passed away, unfortunately, and he had all this art. And they took it to somewhere in Auckland, and they had it all valued. And it ended up being worth an unbelievable amount of money.
Really?
And they because he'd passed away, they sold a few pieces and stuff. But it was unbelievable. Like, he didn't really, I don't think he put himself out there too much.
Yeah.
But, then he passed away, and then it was worth all this money.
It's pretty unfortunate, eh?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's unfortunate that it was worth something when he was gone, not when he was around.
There's that saying like, dead artists don't eat, or dead artists don't need your money, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, support the ones that are alive. They need it.
Yeah.
I think there was a friend of ours was saying that Michael Smith, that he was saying something like that. Oh man, this motherfucker's just waiting for me to die, man. Just waiting, man. So
collectors, or just sign that because it might be worth something one day, and you're like, why not now?
On Monday, we were talking about, I don't know if you guys got to see that, Tameiti, the Maori artist. Did you see that he went to a hotel in Wellington and saw a piece of art that is a representation of him. It's him in the artwork, and there's a name. The name of the artwork is at the bottom, but the guy misspelled his name. So he didn't think twice. Like, he got to the hotel and he he changed it. I was like, oh nah, man, it's such a simple name, Tame, not Tama, And then the artist loved it. The guy who did it was like, whoa, wow, sorry, man. But the owner of the piece, he was like,
curious.
Really?
Wanted the police to prosecute him.
Like
vandalism and stuff.
It's probably just gone up. Like how much?
I know, right?
It's got a story behind it now, so it's going to be worth heaps.
Talk about conversation starter. Sweet, all good.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how it always goes back to that, like to the value of the thing, to the monetary value,
and not just I like this, so I'm gonna have this. Like, this is what I like. Often people will come in, and I know it's really hard with art. Like, sometimes you just don't know what you want or what you like. But instead of going for I like this, so I'm gonna, this is what I want today, they'll go, well, what edition's that? Or is this limited, or is this signed, or how many prints are you going to take? And there's so much behind it. And for me, not being a trained artist from art school and stuff, I think Maki got a lot of training for how you should do things as an artist, but I have no idea. And I've sort of learned it along the way, and I did so much wrong at the start, and even in the way that you should frame things, or you can't frame things like that because that's not how it's done. And I had no idea, but there's so much stuff behind it, and some of it's really clever. Like, it looks good when you frame it this way, so you kind of learn a technique to do it. But some of it, you're just like, well, actually it's fine. There's a lot of art wankery around.
a bit of a physical work, Martin. The one that you do with the what's the name of the? Is it a roller? How do?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just a roller. You're just rolling ink. Yeah, it can be physical when you're pumping out like the big ones. You know, some of the big works that we've done in the past. Get a sweat on, especially like the real big ones that don't fit in a press. You know, they're probably the size of a sheet of MDF, so 2.4 by 1200, and you got just a little spoon to print it, and you got to go quick before the ink sort of dries out too much, so you're sitting there going, yeah, for sure.
What do you do with it, like when you've done the print off it? What do you do with the leftover part?
Oh, the actual woodcut, the actual cut. Yeah, there's a room full of them. But I have sold one or two in the past. Just people have been like, oh, you know, would you sell the woodcut? And I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
it's just going to gather dust otherwise. So sure, if it's hanging in your room, that people are seeing it, enjoying it, and that's why I do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You did a really cool one for a friend where you actually used a wood block and made it the ends of his kitchen bar.
So, cool.
So I made some prints off it, and then when I was finished, I just gave it to him, and he slapped them on the side of his kitchen bar.
Cool.
Yeah, that became part of his.
That's awesome.
His kitchen.
Cool. What's the size of the big
one? 3.6 by 1200.
Wow.
Oh no, 2.4.
Yeah.
3.6 by 2.4. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Did you always want to do like a massive? How was the project?
Well, it started. So me and my mate that I went to art school with, Hamish, we both sort of finished art school together, and then we were hanging out at Te Kowhai Print Trust, which is like a printing community up in Whangarei. Really cool. If you got time, go check it out. But we were up there, and he had been watching these Americans make these giant prints with a road roller.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, what do you reckon about this? You know, you reckon we could do this? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. Let's give that a try. So we had a show coming up, and we needed to fill this. It was quite a big gallery, and there was three of us, me, him, and one of our old tutors, Murray Gibbs. And so we needed to fill this gallery, and we're like, well, the easiest way to fill this gallery is just do these giant prints. We'll hire a road roller. We'll give it a go. And so that's how we did it. And we made like these huge big prints. It sort of worked, and we filled the gallery, had a great time. And we just thought, shit, we should do this with everybody. We should bring this to the people because it's so cool. I mean, they're doing it overseas, and maybe they'd already done it in New Zealand. I don't know. I'd never seen it. So, that's when we started the Printerpalooza. So that was our first we called it Printerpalooza. And basically, we just asked any artist, hey, you want to be part of it? Come and get a big piece of MDF. We went and picked them all up and dropped them around to the artists. I think we had about maybe 10 artists in the first one. So everyone had their chance to carve their big masterpiece, you know. And then on the day, they all brought them in, and we hired this road roller, and we let people have turns driving it, and it was crazy, you know.
That's so cool.
So we just, inked them up, rolled the fabric. We printed on fabric because it sort of gave a better result. It was a bit easier to work with. But, rolled the fabric out. They got to run it over, and then we had these huge prints. So then we hung them all up. We had like a local gallery that we hung them all up in. And then we'd just do like a little auction. People could come in and say how much they were willing to pay, and they could go home with a giant print. And the artist got to take home a print. So, yeah, that was cool. And that's what got me into making big prints. But I ended up doing like just one sheet, this one print, and my mate ended up doing two that joined together like a diptych. So his print made this giant print, and I was always just like, I need to beat that. So when I did that big one, that was 3. And originally I wanted to make it 7, and it was supposed to. It's a merry-go-round, and it was supposed to be this big circle that I could hang in the middle of the gallery. But when I started carving it, I was like, this
became
is
a half circle.
Yeah, and typical artist left it to the last minute. The show was coming up, and I needed to get it done. So I was like, right, it's going to be 3 now, not 7.
Yeah.
But 3 was big enough anyway.
Spent months on the floor of our lounge.
Taking up all the space.
So do you draw onto the wood and then carve?
Yeah, I'd sort of do like a rough outline. and maybe a little bit of shading sometimes just to see where the light and dark's going to be. And then I just kind of make it up with the chisel as I go. I've sort of got to a stage where I think I can kind of see what I'm doing, and sometimes I ink it up and I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? And sometimes I ink it up and go, yep, that's where I wanted to go. So
there's a lot of sea elements,
Yeah,
on your artwork.
Yeah,
and some psychedelic stuff as well. A good mix. Like, do you write down dreams and stuff?
People are always asking me what I'm smoking.
It gets all crazy out on the artwork.
Nah,
I didn't. Yeah. You can tell me though.
I'm actually pretty drug free. Really, I don't really dabble in a hell of a lot. It's just I've always been pretty naturally out there. I've always seen a weird, trippy side to things, I guess. I don't know. And like you said, dreaming has been sort of one of the big elements of my work. So when I was back in art school, one of the last projects I worked on is I interviewed all my mates' kids and my nephews and nieces and just asked them what they're dreaming about, just to see, and just, hey, what were you dreaming? Because, I was living with my mate who had 2 kids at the time, and they used to tell me some wacky things, so I just thought, this is actually really interesting, and how can I make this into a project? So I started just talking to these kids, asking what they're dreaming about, writing it down, like whatever they say, and sometimes they'd be making it up right on the spot, and you knew they were just lying, but
still good.
That's a daydream in itself, They're just trying to conjure up whatever. So I was like, cool, this is awesome, and I'd write it down and do little pencil sketches. And in the end, like I had this, big volume of work, and I was like, oh man, this is actually really cool. I'm going to use this. Like I ended up making it into a book anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, and then.
So like what was the book like? Did you make like what they said into stories or poems?
No, I just took all those drawings and what they said and just stitched it all together and made copies, made the covers and stuff, and so cool. Sort of self-published, I suppose. Yeah, but like totally handmade. So handmade copies of the book, really. Yeah.
And I suppose kids' imaginations just run wild, they?
It's crazy.
When you're young, your just imagination is
what was some of them?
So cool.
I remember the Minion one.
Yeah,
that was
there's all sorts. Yeah, dancing Transformers with tutus and all sorts. Like,
cool.
You'd have to see it.
Yeah,
should have brought it.
Yeah, I should have brought it.
Do you guys ever have you ever got into that habit of writing down your own, like your dreams, like to take notes and stuff?
I used to, yeah. I used to just have reoccurring dreams that I would actually write down. I didn't need to in the end because I remember them because it was exactly the same every night for months on end.
Wow.
But I don't dream that much at the moment.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Not that I remember anyway.
Nah.
I think they say when you wake up straight away you remember your dreams, but if you sort of goes on and off, you tend to remember them.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I'm a little bit hit and miss. Like sometimes it's as clear as it's super clear, and then other times it's sort of slightly blurry.
Yeah.
But I seem to dream a lot. There's always something going on.
Yours are always mighty weird.
Yeah.
Good to be a dreamer.
Yeah. But good inspiration, and I don't know. I think it's a part of us, really. It's part.
So. I think some of the best drawings both of us have done have been somewhat
coming
dreamlike.
from me.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you guys into journaling? Like just
Marky
into the habit of
really
writing?
into it. He did a pretty cool journal whilst we were away.
I like writing and a little bit of poetry and a little bit of sketching here and there. Yeah, I like to keep a little bit of a record. It's always a good source of inspiration for down the track. You might record something and be like, oh wow, I could take that further. I could take that to the next step. So yeah.
I tend to collect things, but he was doing pretty much like a poem for every day. So, like, there would be the activities that we did, and I just forget so easily. Shocking. But Marky was writing sort of like a poem which lets us keep track of what we were doing and what happened, so I can read it back and go, oh, right, sweet. Yeah, that's what happened. And it's kind of a bit trippy, but it's takes it through. That's cool.
Do you go through different formats? Sometimes you like the poetry, sometimes you just write it down like freely, or you like to structure, because for it ends up becoming like a discipline kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
like if you follow a format, then you're kind of like challenging yourself.
Yeah.
And some people are more like, nah, I'm just journaling, I'm just...
It's always a bit rhymey, but then sometimes I just break the rules and just write whatever. Yeah.
You're actually pretty good. I don't know, for someone who's a shocking speller,
Yeah,
you're a very good poet.
Yeah, English has always been pretty bad.
That's pretty awesome.
Were you guys good at school?
Yeah, I'd say pretty good. I was never a bad kid.
You were head boy.
Yeah, I was head boy.
Well done.
There was I went to a school. Yeah, there was just me and one girl, and I was head boy and she was head girl. So there wasn't much choice really. Yeah, a small school. So yeah, most of my mates all dropped out and got trades, and I didn't really know where I wanted to go. So I was like, nah. If I stay in seventh form, at least I'll get head boy, and that'll look good on my CV. So that's what I did.
That's a great decision.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What about you, Bex?
I was pretty good at school. Yeah, I was a super goody good, and I was really into sport, so that kind of dragged me through. And then did like all the academic studies, and then went to uni, and I was very I just went through that academic path, which was really cool, but I kind of wish some part of me would have been a bit more open to doing the artistic route as well.
Do you feel like you had to do that as opposed to doing art? Or?
I don't think I had to. I wouldn't have ever been forced to, but it was definitely suggested that this was the better route. But it's been pretty amazing. I've got quite a cool career from it now as well, and a really versatile career that I can do heaps with. I can travel with it. It's pretty cool. But sometimes I think, it'd be really nice to be able to just stop and delve into that artistic side of me a bit more instead of the structured academic side of me.
So is that the physio? Yes.
Yeah.
How much do you have to keep up with what's changing? Is
so
it
much?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a lot. There's a lot of you have to do so much every year to kind of keep on top, and you've got
to keep qualified.
Yeah, so you've got to.
So it's not like you do one test and you're in.
No, that's it. You just
every year.
Which is really good. It's tedious, but it's really really good because it does change so quickly that you've got to keep up. Otherwise, you get completely left behind. But we have to do something like 100 hours of a continued professional development, they call it. So that's either courses or talking to peers or doing your own research or so it's just...
I think I saw something a long time ago that the top injury for Q is with the elastic, how do you call
it?
it?
The trampoline.
The trampoline. Trampoline.
Yeah. They've made it pretty safe now. You got those sides
you got
and
the
stuff.
nets.
Yeah, the amount of times I went through the springs.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
God.
Yep.
Around here it's builders and shoulders and backs.
Oh yeah, the most common.
Oh yeah. But that keeps us busy, so.
It gives. But that's the thing, what I respect, because I love to give shit to the pharmaceutical industry. It's just one of my favorite topics. But I respect how, for example, if you want to fix a bad shoulder, you go to the physio, and the physio does its best to get you out of there fixed. But you know what I mean, right? There's a focusing, let's try to get this out of the way, and let's try to make you feel good about this. When sometimes it comes to a mental health condition, and a lot of those pills, they actually keep you under, you cannot let go of that pill. It feels like it's a different approach, that's why I say when you need a doctor, it's great because if you chopped your leg off, cool, they can sew that back, amazing, kudos. But sometimes it feels like that is all about keeping people
in the system.
With those pills, like, so like a shout out for the physios, but like some modern ones, it's just a bit hard for me to.
It's really difficult. We're definitely in a bit of a society where we want quick fixes, and it just doesn't happen from my point of view. I do a lot of rehab and neurophysio, they call it, which is not sort of your general, I've sprained my ankle, I'll go into clinic and get that sorted. So it's a bit more long term, and it's management strategies and things, and there often aren't quick fixes, and it just takes a lot of, it's always up to the person to fix themselves. I really believe that strongly, and we can give all the guidance that we can, and we can give hand-on technique and support and like a lot of knowledge, but it's always up to the person to get themselves better, which is sometimes difficult to kind of get through.
Yeah, because a lot of the issues, they are emotional, right? It's some sort of stress or like some tension, and then how do you find putting these things together? Because you go for the books, but you also have to have this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite lucky in what I do. I can be super holistic, and I can think a little bit more out of the box with a lot of what I do. It's sometimes a bit difficult when you've got things like ACC that sort of manage expectations of what we should and shouldn't be doing. But I think as long as you're sort of honest with, okay, something's happening here and this is what I can fix and within my scope, but actually that's not working now after how many sessions. So there's probably something else going on here, and actually having that discussion with them and on referring to other services that can help with that, if there is one, and bringing people's attention to other things that they could be doing. So there's a lot that you can do as a health professional if you work with others in the health profession. Like, we can't do everything ourselves, so if we know who to refer to, and different things work for different people. So
is it a clinic or something, or you do some work with the government?
I work with the clinic. I work so Thames Physiotherapy branch here in Whitianga with Robert and Crystal. So I work with them, but I do a lot of the sort of stay at work stuff. That's one bit of my job, and then I do a lot of spinal cord and head injury rehab work. That's the other side of it. So that's not based through a company here. That's a national company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you had any falls?
I used to ride horses a lot when I was young, so I've fallen off horses a lot. Yeah. And when I was young, like, I worked in bars and stuff, so I was lifting up kegs, and so my back has always been rugged, always, forever. So but falling off horses, hurting my back, hitting my head, all sorts.
Have you had big injuries yourself?
I've had a real dicky hip. Like, I've had a hip surgery in the last 6 years, I think. That was all through playing a lot of sport when I was younger, and probably pushing myself a bit too hard with sport. I was doing huge distance running and then football, a lot of football, so lots of twisting repetitively, and I think that's where a lot of injuries come across, is actually repetitive activities that we do, and not listening to our bodies. Like, as a teenager, I was like, go, 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 go. But now what I know is that I probably should have taken rest days, and I possibly should have stretched, and there's a lot of stuff I think about that I should have done. But so I've had injuries that have sort of stopped me doing certain things, but nothing that's necessarily changed my life in a big way. Like, nothing like a head injury or a spinal injury, which is pretty gnarly.
You good, Martin? You so far? No big ones on your list?
I've had plenty of broken bones and broken leg, broken arm. What else? Broken ribs.
Oh my goodness.
What else have I done? I've done plenty. Broken collarbone.
Oh god.
Whoa. Always complaining of something.
There's been a few broken bones. Knocked out a few times.
Yeah.
I've never broken a bone in my body.
No, I haven't. Touch
one. Maybe touch our bone.
Touch it.
Funny story of how you break it?
Can I get you
on I flipped a quad bike. Just working as a kid. I was about 14. I was out the back of the farm on a quad bike. Just filled up the spray tank on the back, and was like just finished the paddock, and there was a tiny hill. I was like, I hadn't been up that hill. Went to go up the hill. All the weight was in the back of the bike.
Straight.
So it rolled over. It rolled off my head, split my head open.
Oh my goodness.
And broke my radius. So that just went in a big S bend. And then when I come to, I was still out the back of the farm. So I had to walk back to the boss's house, which is an hour or so down the road.
Oh my
and sort of just knocked on the door and was like, oh, sorry about the bike. And he was just like, fuck, get in the car. And off we went to the hospital. Yeah.
I see why you usually say that you fought a bear.
Yeah. Bear fighting, shark wrestling.
I did that on the farm once. I was coming along on a quad, and there was like a drain in the paddock, and I didn't know about it. So I went straight into the other side of the drain, and I rolled off. But luckily it was just across the road. So I was like, I'm really sorry. I had like a big egg on my forehead. I got a black eye, like scraped all up my face. It was really bad. Really bad.
Gnarly.
Ouch.
You mentioned football. Do you guys watch it as well, or you're more like into the practical?
I enjoy watching it. We play socially for Hahe.
The green machine.
Is it a mixed team? Is it like
it's
cool.
just to turn up and have a kick around.
Yeah.
Pretty relaxed, not like fitty. You guys are pretty serious over there.
Yeah, you guys are.
I don't know, are we?
hardcore.
And the Brazilians are not even in yet. Imagine
the passion on the field.
Thank God the Brazilians aren't in. Jeez, we'd be in real trouble. We're already in trouble, but
No,
more trouble.
We do. We enjoy watching it every now and again, but there's a few of our friends that watch it a bit more religiously than we do.
Yeah. No, it's a real social game. Just we need fitness.
Yeah.
We're not running around like we used to, so it's good for a runner. I get the heart moving, pumping some blood.
I think the World Cup will be here or something. Is that it? The female one?
That'll be cool.
That would be
That'll
good
be really
to watch,
cool.
actually.
Hopefully we can catch some games. Yeah.
We I was listening to Iron Z this afternoon and the lady was saying about like how New Zealand is trying to push, the women's sports to be more recognized. Do you feel like, because I don't know if you still follow up with what's happening in England, but like, do you feel that other countries give more attention to
Well, they look like they're doing pretty well, the female sport over there, eh?
Yeah, they've obviously had a pretty big push on it recently because the football, women's football team over there was pretty big news when we were there, and there was a lot of TV time dedicated to it, and not just at like 2 p.m. It was like prime time. Prime time for women's sport as well, which was cool, and the community was getting way more into it. So that's exciting. Like certainly when I was a teenager and I'd go over and play football with my cousins in the UK, it was pretty much like girls don't play soccer. So I think it's recent change for them as well. And
I think it's becoming more sort of followed here in New Zealand too. I think we're slowly getting behind it, you know.
Yeah, I think football's always been on the back foot in New Zealand anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's rugby and
but like the
netball.
girls' rugby teams.
Getting
There's a girl I went to school with. Well, she's a bit older than me. Eloise Blackwell, I think she's a centre. And then girls' rugby team. But they're killing it.
Yeah,
absolutely
they're so
killing it.
epic.
Oh, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah.
Like she's from little old Fitty.
Yeah.
She's in this, this rugby team, this women's rugby team. That's
world
just killing
champion
it.
rugby team.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's a bit frustrating how things take time, eh? Like, it used to be so like, don't even compete. Like, my friends were saying, I think Saudi Arabia, like women are allowed to drive now, like not a few months ago, like, and then it explains a lot, eh?
Absolutely.
Of why these things take so much time to change, which is.
And why women push so hard to kind of get where they need to be as well. Like it's required. It's only been a very short amount of time that we've actually had rights to do all this stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Do you guys? Please you go.
I was going to say, I wonder if it's not the same, but like sport as a career would be kind of along the same lines as art, because it's like sport is such a cool thing that, you think, man, could this be my job?
Yeah.
Like doing art, like, wow, could this be my job? Is somebody going to
pay me for
Pay me
this?
to do it.
Is someone going to pay me to play sport?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, kind of everything's a bit of an art form,
I suppose
really.
it is,
you know,
really, isn't
cooking.
yeah. If you love it, If you
Yeah.
love it and someone's going to pay you to do it. How
Yeah,
cool is
exactly.
that?
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like it's changing with the arts? Like, is it on the same pace of like recognizing more artists, or it's just?
I think it's definitely changing. I don't know if I'm keeping up with how it's changing. I think digital marketing and digital art is becoming pretty huge, and I'm certainly not keeping up with that. I'm so far behind.
The new thing where you can buy a digital piece of art. What's that even called?
NFT?
Yeah, you probably know more than me.
No, I just know the name. I just know the name. No.
Yeah, I think it's definitely changing. I think art changes pretty quickly, and what's in and not in, and but I don't know. We tend to not think about it too much and just keep making what we're making.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to just shut yourself off from the rest of New Zealand. You know, here in the Coromandel, you can just not leave the Coromandel if you want to, and who even knows what's happening outside of, you know, who even knows what's happening over the other side of the Kopu Hicks? You know, we're just in our little bubble.
And at the end of the day, it's the best thing you can do. As you said, just keep doing what you believe in, right? You know, people say, like, oh, how are we going to change this? We're like, well, we start with yourself, you know, like that's probably the only change that we can control, right? Is what we do, is how we deal with external things.
As long as it's still enjoyable. We should have actually talked about the cool artist that we met up in the Hebrides.
No,
He was pretty inspiring. So that was one arty thing that we did do when we were away. We were actually met him really randomly. We were just camping on a beach, and he came down for a walk, and he was super chatty, like really, really chatty. And he came and had a talk to us for about an hour whilst we sat there. And he was like, "Oh, I'm an artist. My house is just up the hill. Just come see me in the morning for a cup of tea, and I'll show you my studio." And we're like, "Okay, all right, we will." And we did. Even though I didn't really want to at 8:30 in the morning, I was like, "Oh,
four specs into it." And it was worth it, wasn't it? We had a great time.
Worth it. He was amazing. He was like, he did oil painting, like really stunning oil paint work, and then he got himself into embroidery.
His embroidery was stunning.
Wow.
He'd do these pictures, you know, some of them were kind of about that big, but they were just amazing.
It was
just
ridiculous. I don't even know how to explain it, but he'd done like these huge pieces, and he'd done like these quite biblical pieces, which he wasn't religious in any way, shape or form, but he just appreciated like the biblical stories and what he could find in those to storytell. So he'd done these huge, great pieces of those, and then he'd done some pieces based on children's stories, which was kind of similar to your dream book, as in he'd taken kids' stories and then done their stories in embroidery, and they were kind of weird creatures, and it was like a traditional form of art but made quirky and modern. It was really awesome. And then he was sculpture, and he'd made his own house, and he'd done his own garden, so he was like a real artist as a whole.
And that's sort of becoming more popular too, the old embroidery art, folk art, you know. It's starting to become a bit of a collector's thing.
Do you remember his name?
Was it Tom Hicks? Tom?
Yes.
It was Tom Hicks.
Yeah.
Hickman.
Yep.
Tom Hickman.
Tom Hickman.
There we go.
Hebrides, Scotland.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of nowhere.
It was about as far as from anywhere as you could get. Yeah.
So probably not on social media. You have to go camping and wait for him to come.
He does a blog.
There you go.
He's quite computer savvy.
He's quite a chatter. But he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, it was worth looking up.
Amazing that he happened to be.
I know.
Where you guys
wandering along the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually, the only other couple we met at that beach, they came and had a chat to us as well. And we saw them both, and I saw her, and I was like, oh, they look like a nice couple. And I was just thinking to myself on the beach later, because they went back to their car, I wonder if she's a physio. That would be weird. And then they came back and had a chat to us, and she was a physio. And they were thinking about moving to New Zealand, and they wanted tips on moving to New Zealand, and they didn't know we were
They just
Kiwis
happened to talk to some
at all.
Kiwis. Yeah,
They were just started talking
How
to us.
do you
and
pick up a physio? How do you know? Is it the look? Is it
I
the
don't
way
know
that you
who
walk?
I knew, but I knew. It was weird.
It was kind of weird.
It's all straight. Martin, is like walking
Yes,
straight?
very
Nice posture.
Very nice, exactly that. Nice posture.
We're our own worst patients. I doubt we've got good posture.
Guys, and how do we find your artwork?
Wow, you go first.
On
On the floor in our room.
True. Rolled up under the bed. Yeah. I've got an Instagram page, Orca King Press. So when I do get around to doing things, I normally throw it down there. Or your Instagram.
My Instagram is art by Becs
There we go.
with 2 underscores between the words.
Or, even better, just come down to the Yellow Door and
Yeah, have
chat
a
with
chat.
us and
Yes.
come and make some art yourself.
Yeah.
That's-
You guys involved with the Artscape, Mercury Bay Artscape? Are you part of it?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, we
no?
have been.
We have been.
We actually had a break this year, and then they unfortunately couldn't go ahead anyway. So it was a good year to have a break.
Yeah.
But I've got my stuff in quite a few cafes around the place as well. I've got some stuff in Coro Club. I've got some stuff over in Kua Cafe. And
Cool.
Yeah, which
That's
is
really
great.
cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
both wonderful places as well.
Yeah.
And your stuff.
Yeah, I don't have my stuff anywhere, but it will get out there eventually at some stage. You'll see it. It does find its way out every now and then. So when you see it, you'll know.
Aw, thanks so much, guys, for joining us. That was
No,
a cool
thank
chat,
you.
Thanks
man.
for having
Appreciate
us.
that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate checking the messages in Europe.
Yeah.
To me, that was cool. I was like, ooh, am I going to get them? I'm not too sure. But
You
a
were,
good effort
you were
getting
lucky to
marking.
get me because I pretty much just switched my phone off and didn't touch it, like probably once or twice the whole time I was there. So you did well.
good timing.
Yeah,
And then it's broken, right? And
Yeah,
then
it's
it-
yeah
gone.
now
It's
it's
gone now.
broken.
it was perfect
All
timing.
right, it was.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Cool
Awesome.
chat. Thank you. Jess, thank you.
No worries,
Well done,
anytime.
Did you like it?
Yeah. It's cool to be back.
That's
Cool to
good to
chat
know.
about cool stuff.
We'll bring you back. Nice. Thanks, Taylor. And for you guys watching us at home, we're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Peace.